welcome to another episode. I am Cassandra, and I'll be leading this discussion today. We're going to start this conversation by talking about the acronym for grief. I'm using the words getting rid of internal and external fears. This acronym makes me think about some of the emotions that I have experienced before and after my loss. I know that an unexpected and even expected loss can trigger many fears. Some of these fears are internal and some are external. Fear focuses on the future and grief focuses on the past. Both the past and the future play important roles in the healing process. Now take a moment to think about this. Are you focusing on the future or are you focusing on the past?
Well, Cassandra, when I'm talking to some of my clients, I know that they're focusing on the past. And, they're thinking about the pain that they're still feeling. And what I try to do is to get them to think about the good memories that they had with their loved ones.
Mhm.
And, to actually, look for the grace and the gratitude of having spent all those wonderful memories with their loved one. I understand, for myself personally, I think I'm focusing more on the future, but there is fear in focusing on that future.
Yes, there is. The fear does sometimes it stumps us from moving forward. But we do need to we have to find ways to process through those fears. Now, if I were to answer that question, I would say that reflecting on the past allows you to honor what was lost.
Mhm.
Remembering can bring meaning, connection, and even comfort, especially when you're not trying to remember. You want to learn how to carry the loss, and looking towards the future helps you reimagine life after loss. It's not about forgetting, but it's about rebuilding.
And I also think, Cass, about focusing on the past, it's
Mhm.
easier, it's comfortable. Even though it's sad and you're missing someone, you know what happened in the past. The
Yes,
future is scary because you have no idea what it's to be like with this major change.
yes.
And I can
Yes.
I just to chime in, I can definitely relate to that. And I remember early on after I had lost my husband, it just seemed so daunting, to just move forward, And so I think in the grief process, you go through those stages and those times. And even
Yes.
now, you're trying to adapt to a new normal without your loved one.
Mhm.
And so much has changed. Like you said, Sakia, so much has changed in just a short period of time.
Mhm.
Often, I know for me, it was just like, instant, disruption of my life when my husband passed. And so, but you want to, honor the memories. And so finding ways to do that while also, moving forward. So it's definitely something to navigate at times for sure.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
It is.
Yeah.
You may, even with the loss of our husbands, because we both, Constance and I both lost our husbands, we may experience the fears of abandonment, fears of being embarrassed, fear of the unknown. I remember the first time I had to fill out some forms, and it says divorced, married, single, and then widow. And that was just like,
Yes.
I, I didn't want to check that box, but that
Yeah.
was the box I fell in. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm a widow. But the fear of the unknown, as you were saying, Constance, is really that, you're so used to being this unit, and then all of a sudden it's just you, and you're wondering, um, that change in your lifestyle, what is it going to bring? You might have that fear about losing your job, just many of these fears that can be coupled with just everyday worries about what is going on in the world, not just in your world, but the world around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I could say something real quick, when you mentioned fear of the unknown, and even the embarrassment.
Mm.
Just thinking about a person like myself going through a divorce, sometimes it was very embarrassing and still is today sometimes to even have to share that with other people.
Mhm.
And fear of the unknown, I have to now get used to living by myself, and doing things by myself, at least for right now. So I could really attest to that as well.
Mhm.
And I like you sharing that part, Jennifer, about um you said the embarrassment of not being a part of a unit. I can understand that. I can see how that could affect many who are going through, like you said, divorce, loss, or just the changes. And there was always two, and now there's one. And now
Mhm.
you have to explain that over and over again, for those who may not know. So I can see how that would also be a fear.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
does life look like? Yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
and it's not talked about enough. I think, too, that these residual losses, not only do you lose, that individual in your life, but everything associated with them. And so, and sometimes you may not, recognize it right away, that those residual losses,
Mm.
but it's just like every day or as time goes on, you'll just start remembering like, oh my goodness, or you'll run into something. I know for me, just you run into something, it's like, wow, this is something I would have, shared with him, my husband, or we would have, addressed this challenge together, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of residual losses and so fear of those unknown places now that you have to navigate those alone. So,
Yes, and also the fear of the changes in relationships with others that you know that you used to hang out with. You always, the married folks were the couples, and then you feeling sort of, at least that's how I felt,
mm,
like the third wheel, or just it was just that level of discomfort, even though they were very welcoming and so forth, but I still felt sort of out of place.
mhm,
Yes, yes. Um, so that is, it's a big fear, the fear of just losing control over things that you once felt confident about.
mhm.
Yes. When all of these fears just started to compound and seem like they were multiplying, what or how did you manage? I mean, did you have support systems in place? Tell me exactly, what did you do, Constance? Did you have support systems?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I'm so thankful, just for family and friends who show up, and be there, And so I can't overemphasize, that when you're going through these types of journeys in your life, such, deep losses, to have the right people around you and have access to those people. But I remember one incident, like I had to get tires from my car, this just, I've probably done it, prior to my husband, but just thinking about it, having to like purchase new tires on my vehicle, and it's just like sent me into like this space of like, oh, he's supposed to be here and take care of the car stuff,
Yes.
and so I remember calling my brother,
Mhm.
and he's like trying to just like, well, go get three estimates, and do that, and then check this out and check this company out, and so it was just good to have him as a sounding board, and just like, hey, I'm just like, I gotta buy these tires, and this was Charles's job, and so it was just a blessing just to have, my family just around for those times, that I've experienced, those questions and just, encountered those fears of just figuring things out or having to just kind of figure things out on my own again. So,
Yes. That I can relate to as well. Because when I needed a new car, and I'm calling my brother, is this a good price? This is what they're saying.
right.
And then my dad went on the test ride with me. So, of course, my husband would be the one to do that. I mean, he always kept my car nice and shiny, washed and clean inside. And now I have to I have to do that. And it's like, I don't know why he thought it was so much fun. I don't think it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, just like learning how to maneuver those different things that were just second nature to him. And for me, it was just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. If I needed something around the house, fix something,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
could call somebody. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's those things. It's the little things that you miss. Of course, you miss them, and then the little things that they used to do that maybe we sort of took for granted.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yes.
So, in speaking about support systems, Cassie and Constance, you guys both mentioned family members. I heard that. Who else did your support system consist of?
Good friend.
Yeah, good friends. Yeah,
Friend.
good.
And then also, yeah, also too, like the support groups. I
Mm.
remember,
Mhm,
going to like grief share, taking advantage of some of like the grief free like support groups.
mhm,
Those were really helpful. And also I found one that was just specifically a support group specifically for widows.
Mm.
So which is able to connect with them and just finding people within those groups that you can kind of like latch on to, so to speak, and just, they may be able further along in their journey. And I mean, I just met some amazing women, in those support groups. And so, and they would just was there for me to like ear, sometimes late at night, if I was just needed someone to talk to or just someone to listen.
Mm.
They made themselves available. And so it was a blessing for me. And
Yeah.
so I try to do the same now for other widows that I come across and just be that support.
Yeah. And I guess, Constance, that made you feel comfortable because you felt like they've been there already, or they kind of, even though your situation may be different, they kind of been there. They know what you're going through.
Exactly. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it does as well. I will agree with the grief support groups. I'm still in touch with the grief support group that I would, and we were all widows in that group.
Mm.
Um, and then of course my friends, and then my church family as well
Yeah.
was a big support to me. And then of course we already said our own families.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, those were some of the many of the folks who helped me through this process. And I'm very thankful for that.
Well,
What
the
about,
reason I asked is because I think Constance brought it up when she talked about the women she met through grief share. Sometimes your support comes in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. Um, I know you guys were talking about the loss of your spouse, and you all know my story, the loss of my grandmother. So a lot of my support surprisingly came back from classmates, people who knew me when I was younger. A lot of my current friends were unaware of the relationship that I had with my grandmother. So they were just like, oh, okay, grandma. But the ones who saw her combing my hair and doing the things for me growing up, they were like, oh, this is a big deal, Sister
Mhm.
Kia. And they kind of came out of the woodworks and was like, we are here for you.
Mm.
So it was just surprising. People who I would have never thought would come and be there for me. So that's encouragement to anybody who's watching. Open your doors to the different supports, those who are willing to come and sit with you or do something for you. I know that that's kind of hard when you're going through, but support will come.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Another thing that was helpful for me, and I'm a big proponent of that too, is that sometimes you have to form your own community.
Mm.
And so I know, like, there were some ladies that I had just, because sometimes, being a widow and then just you're finding yourself in that lonely kind of space sometimes, or just needing interaction with other people more consistently or what have you. And so I just reached out to a couple ladies, and so we would just come together. We still do when our schedules permit, maybe once a month, and we just talk about life. We talk about maybe things that we're working on or projects, and just creating my own community for just other things, because I didn't want to tire out my family all the time, or But just sometimes we have to to advocate for yourself and be willing or take courage really and just reach out to some people and just see, hey, can we connect, or it's like especially these two individual ladies, we just really connected well.
Mhm.
And so we just like, hey, well, maybe we can maybe meet monthly and just have girl talk, and it's been really good as well. So that's another way or resource to think about as others are navigating facing those fears and finding support systems. What
Mhm.
about you, Arosha? I know as you had lost your mom, and were there things um, that helped you?
I was similar to you, Constance. I formed my own community and looked out to people who could understand my grief.
Mhm. Yeah. And Arosha, we both lost our parents and at least both our mothers. One of the things that I did with my siblings, once both my parents were deceased, we would get together every year and just, it would be like a siblings trip and a sibling support group. And I recently shared that with a young lady who lost her mom and she has two brothers. And she thought it was a great idea to get her brothers together with her to just do something. We would just go to lunch, dinner, we'd get together, in a place once a year because they live across the country. But, just kind of even having siblings get together to support each other.
That's good. I love that. I love that idea.
I love
Yeah.
that too because with my family now we started off doing a weekly family chat on Wednesday evenings, and now we're because of our schedules we're doing every other week, and we really look forward to it. And then of course if we want to chat in between that, but that's just a special time, and it just keeps us connected. You have that connection. And even with my children, while my son being out in California, we FaceTime, and then I see my daughter all the time. So it's nice to have family around. I just often wonder about those who maybe do not have family
Right.
and what it is that
That was me. I had very little family. Again, I had a
mhm,
brother, and he was like next in line, like supposed to be the man of the house. So
mhm,
I, like said earlier, I had to find people and go out there and connect.
yes.
And they supported me. Everyone didn't understand me, but the people that I've connected with was my biggest support, and they still check in with me.
Hmm,
Wow.
That's
that's a
good.
blessing. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, grief brings not only sorrow, but never ending fears. Some are obvious and some are hidden. I remember thinking, what am I going to do without him? The weight of that question just felt so unbearable. Happiness felt out of reach. I feared I might go crazy. Some days I cried. Sometimes I felt nothing. Sometimes I was angry. Sometimes I laughed, and then I felt guilty for laughing. But maybe grief doesn't have rules. But I was so stuck in this rule oriented mode that it was kind of difficult to see my way out. I really didn't know if I was grieving correctly. And what does that even mean? These internal fears can become so overwhelming that they may lead to anxiety, depression, and emotional exhaustion. You might even feel confused or forgetful, afraid of your own shadow. Then, trying to cope, you may even turn to harmful ways of self soothing just to find some kind of relief. I'm wondering again, has that happened to any of you? Have you ever felt this way?
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm right there with you,
Yeah.
Cassandra. I remember for me, I would just I would get into these spaces where I would just isolate and I tell people today as I share with other widows I come in contact, isolation, it doesn't operate by itself. It brings depression. Um, and so there was days where I would just shut down and I didn't want to deal with anything. I would shut down. I would stay in the house. And I would zone out. I would just zone out and just watch TV because I didn't want to think about it. Um, and and I knew that was an unhealthy space, but I felt sometimes you feel paralyzed uh,
Mm.
by that, that those
Yes.
all of those emotions that you're trying to navigate and just, like you mentioned, Cassandra, just all of those what if questions and just the range of emotions. And so, yeah, I would find myself, just zoning out, coming home from work and just, I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to think. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm just going to sit here and just zone out in front of the TV and just, you know, and so, yeah. And so it was a process to kind of just get through that stage. And sometimes it pops up again some days, or sometimes it'll still hit where I just like, I don't want to do nothing. I don't, some kind of trigger or whatever. And I
Mm-hmm.
find myself there, but I've had to learn how to come up out of it quicker.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's the thing is because those things are going to happen, but you just have to start learning coping mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
and ways to pull yourself out of there because it's not the best space to be in.
Right.
No,
I
it's
can understand that too, Constance. And what I was going to say is, everybody's grief journey is different. And so sometimes you might have to grace yourself and give you that time by yourself. But
Mhm.
like you said, you don't want to stay there. You don't want it to go into something that would be really negative. For me, I did not want to go places that maybe I used to go together with my husband, or just even, just any place. I wanted to just do something different. I wanted to go someplace. I didn't want to face people because everybody would be asking, how's he? They didn't know. And, I just didn't want to even have that conversation.
Mhm.
So, but then I had to also know that I had to get out and do my own thing again, and find myself really. And I'm
Mhm.
still finding myself now. And
Mhm.
I'm not shying away from going places where people might ask or people might, and I'm hoping that everybody just knows, so that I don't even have to talk about it. But I can understand that too. And so we have to recognize when it's not a good thing and then make a change.
Right.
Right.
And I like I love how you just reiterated about giving ourselves grace because
Mhm.
I think that's so important too. Nobody has a timetable, but you have to kind of recognize within yourself. And I know for me, I started recognizing this is not a healthy place for me.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
need to make a change.
Mhm.
I
So,
think what I love the most, Constance, is when you said isolation does not come alone. It comes with visitors,
oh,
whether it's anxiety, depression, sadness. And I
Mhm.
think that's important to remember when you find yourself in that place. Like you said, give yourself grace. I'm about feeling all the feels, but don't let that be the only thing that you feel. And when you find out that you're in that place, do whatever you can to push yourself out of it, simply because at some point silence can become loud. And
oh
I
yeah.
know that you guys can attest to that, right? And so I just think it's important to feel as much as you can, with that space of the positive energy as much as you can so you won't stay where you are.
Mhm. Yeah.
I agree. I
So,
agree. You
yeah.
know, fear not only lives in our minds, but it also lives in our bodies. It can, have physical effects on us. We
Mhm.
can develop stomach issues, ulcers, your high blood pressure. Some people may even develop poor eating habits or they stop eating altogether. Fear has a way of showing up in our lives often when we least expect it. Um, so, what I'd like to ask is what are some of the steps that you've taken or are taking now to face those fears? And how do you work through them when they are overwhelming?
Mhm.
Mm.
But one of the things that I do, I have a routine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wake up I put my feet on the floor. I kind of give myself, time to really ground myself into my meditation, my prayer. And then I, most days, like to go to the gym, to the pool, because that's where I can just really let go. It's early in the morning before anybody else gets there. I can, just do my little workout in the pool. And like I said, it's just relaxing. And, some days, of course, it's like, oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to go. But I then think about how I'm going to feel when I'm done. And that's what pushes me to go. So that's one of the things that I do to just kind of, like I said, I'm finding myself again. I'm really working on being me and being whole. And so that's the kind of things that I do to really push myself forward into the future and, not being fearful about the unknown.
Yeah, I agree. It's just taking those steps. I think for me, it's just taking a step forward. And so, and I also for me was it was important for me to give back. And so um the widow journey is not, it's not easy. And so, and I saw so many things early on that I struggled with, and even some of the challenges you encounter when trying to navigate financial affairs and different things. And so I saw a need for more support, and it led me to want to turn the pain that I had into purpose. And so I started a nonprofit organization called The Widow's Promise, and it supports other widows. And so I create these comfort boxes that I send to widows across the country. And I mean, that this work has just really just gave me, it gave me just, it was therapeutic for me to be able to do that and to give to other people and help other people who were walking through the same thing. And so, sometimes, just I think just taking that opportunity to give back or finding ways to help others kind of helps you um, push you forward in that grief journey, to move forward.
I know I as well, I volunteered for hospice, and I didn't realize at the time I started the hospice, the course before my husband passed. And then um, he had hospice, he was on hospice before he passed. And I just saw how just wonderful the nurses and the staff were. And after he passed, and then the coordinator asked me if I was going to continue, and I said, well, yes. I mean, I had already started, and it was, I just was already meeting some of the clients, and I just felt that that helped me in my grief process, helping someone else, as Constance said. You reach out to someone else, other families who are, the process is, it's close. And it was just, yes, it's very emotional. But what I found was it's okay to cry. You crying for them, but you're also crying for yourself. But in that, there's healing
Yes.
in the tears, as Sakia was saying, that you got to feel the feels. So I found that to be very helpful for me.
Yeah.
So Cash, you and Constance both said that was, the widow's promise and working in hospice was something that was therapeutic for you all. I just have a quick question, and I know it's your interview, Cass, but I'm just wondering, what are the things what did you all need during that time? And this is for everybody on here. What did you need now that you've gotten through it that you didn't realize you needed at that time? Like, looking back, what did you realize that you needed, but you didn't realize you needed until it came to you?
As far as the grief journey, or along the grief journey,
Or support.
or the support.
I think I needed to know that someone else cared. Yes, I knew my family cared, but just people who were around me, maybe they really didn't know me that well, but they cared that I was, I was struggling. I was having a difficult time, because sometimes you can't hold in your emotions and you start crying, and it's nice that someone will come over to you and embrace you and just hold you and comfort you. So I that was something that I didn't really know that I needed until I received it. It, it,
Um,
it blesses your heart, you know.
And I think the reason the question came up, Constance, when you talked about, giving to the widows, you've gone through it, you've experienced it, and, you kind of know a little bit, maybe not their situation, but something that helped you. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why the question popped up in my head when you all started talking about it.
Mhm.
okay. Yeah. And I was just trying to think through in my mind what, something that I didn't know I needed. Guess what came to my mind initially was just, I think sometimes as women, and maybe it's not just reserved for women, but this ideal that we have to be strong. And I remember early on, it's like, it's sometimes that expectation of being strong. And I remember saying to myself, I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be strong. I don't want to be strong in this,
Yeah.
and so I was like, and people would say different things, too, um, like, oh, you strong, you do whatever. And I was like, I don't want to be strong, I don't want to be strong. And I think that's some sort of surprised me, what, that came coming out, um, and needing people to lean on,
Mm.
you know. And
Yeah.
so it was just, and sometimes it's been difficult, and I really kind of had to like really reevaluate just, you know, it's okay not to be strong, and so just having that awareness, I think, I didn't know I needed to process that, or this grief journey really highlighted the need to, I don't have to be strong. I don't
Good.
can lean on other people.
Mhm.
It's okay, and let people help you. That was another thing. Because like I remember once, one incident, and I tell people today, that I share with about it, because when my husband started, he went through his the stroke. He had the stroke, and I was in the hospital, and call your family, call your loved ones and everybody. And my sister, one of my sisters, who I'm really close with, she said, "You need me to come now?" And she lives in Florida, and I live in Maryland. And so, and I was like, "Oh no," I was like hesitant. I didn't want to, whatever. And in retrospect, after a while later, I was like, I should have had her come. It would have been nice just to have her
Okay.
presence there. And
Yeah.
she was just going to hop on the plane and just, come. And so I
Mhm.
think I learned that out of that, situation in my life, that let people help you.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
want to help you, let them,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes. That
That's
it's
good.
okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that might stem from, at least for me, I was always the one that took care of everybody else.
Hmm.
So it was nice to have to be taken care of,
Mhm.
during that time.
Yeah.
It sounds like needing permission. I heard
Mhm.
I mean, needing hugs, needing comfort, needing support, and just needing permission to just be.
Yeah.
Just be whatever you were gonna be in that moment, without having to put on a show or put on a face or a mask for somebody else. Just allowing to be yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Allow yourself to break. And it's
Yeah, yeah. To break, that's
painful.
good.
This is
Yeah.
That's good.
pain. This is
Mm.
pain. It's
Mm-hmm.
hurt. It hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Allow ourselves to break. It's okay to break.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you have
Breaks can be
friends
mended.
around,
Breaks can be mended.
right? They can mend those broken pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The other people in your lives, they're there to help you mend.
Hmm.
So it's helpful when you can reach out, when you accept the fact that you need help. And to me, that just, those broken pieces, you get put back together. Maybe not the same as you were before all of this happened, but it's still better than remaining broken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Jennifer, you talk about, too, and how you're navigating the space of, the ending of your marriage, and and so I know it's learning a new normal, but how do you
Yeah, well, I like when you said allow yourself to break, and
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely relate to allowing people to help you, not feeling like you got to do everything, you got to know everything, and you're going to make some mistakes, because now you're thinking and doing everything on your own, just like you guys were talking about when things break and there was usually someone else there. Well, when you're in a marriage too, sometimes you're making decisions together.
Yes.
Now now you're not. So it's also me as a single person now calling on someone else to help me think about something or get through something, or having someone come and fix something, So it's a new norm. It's a new way of being. And but just thinking back about, people who have lost loved ones and putting on that mask, and not feeling like they could be themselves. And if they need to break down, then just break down, So I think it's healthy to just know that you can just be and not being worried about what other people are going to think. So in my situation, I had to stop worrying about what other people were going to think and say, and who was the wrong person, all of that kind of stuff, and just let it be. Hey, we're just not together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. We're both good. We're okay. So something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of almost maybe reminded me of like when people say no is a complete sentence.
Complete, period.
Oh, so we're not together anymore. That's a complete sentence too.
Yeah, yeah. It is what it is.
It is, especially for those who don't just want to know just to know.
No, right.
You can
Yeah,
always identify those people.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's a journey.
Well, I know we talked about it earlier that you often hear the phrase "be kind to yourself," and Constance mentioned earlier to give yourself grace. And I remember I used to brush it off. It just seemed like it was so vague. It was nice sounding, but not really helpful. But over time, I started to see it differently. And that it's not about fixing everything, it's about not making things harder than they already are. It means I'm doing the best I can in a really hard situation. Um, there are different things that you can do to be kind to yourself. And one of the things that I like to do, I know Jennifer mentioned about routine. I also like to have a routine. I like to do the journaling. That was something that was really helpful to me. I still like taking notes anyway, but the journaling was a little more personal for me. And then, of course, talking to someone safe, like a therapist or your friend, someone that you feel connected to that's not going to judge you. And that's what I say when I say someone's, that's what I'm thinking when I say someone's safe. So, what are some of the things that you might do to be kind to yourself or to help you feel that you're heading in the right direction, that you're moving forward?
Well, I journal a lot and I journal intentionally. Like I may use prompts so that I can guide my thoughts in the direction that I'm hoping to go into. I also love to scrapbook. So I keep all my memories and then make them a little bit extra special with all the embellishments. That's another that I do. And I think I shared with you all. For me, losing my grandmother, I wanted to do everything I could to keep her memory alive. And so for like Christmas, she always bought us underwear. So I am the auntie that buys everybody underwear.
Oh,
And they're just like, TT, I know this is it is. That's what we're going to do because we're going to remember Granny, right?
Oh.
So little things like that. I think it's for me moving with intentionality and purpose in all things is kind of what helps me stay grounded.
mhm,
Good.
mm,
I'm just trying to think about that self-care. Yeah, I like to journal as well,
Mm-hmm.
and journal my thoughts. And when you were sharing about your grandmother, Sakia, I thought about after my husband passed, I was able to find this like really nice, like small suitcase, and it's just amazing. Just how God works. I was looking. I wanted to have something to save some of his things.
mm,
And so I went to this thrift store one day and I found this suitcase. It was so cute. Blue. Blue was his favorite color.
mhm,
And it was called the Baltimore, which is the city he was born in.
Okay.
And I
mm,
just like, wow, God,
mm,
there's no coincidences. And so I was able to take the suitcase and just put in all some of the things that reminded me of him in there. And, I don't go in there often. I don't open it up often, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
mhm,
so, yeah.
yes,
Definitely a God wink on that one.
It
Mhm.
was. It was. But other self-care, I think, is just, you know, pressing into those feels, giving ourselves permission. Because sometimes I just have to take a mental health day from work, even now, it's been 3 years since my husband passed away. But I recognize when I'm in a space and I just need a day. I need a day.
Mhm.
And so I take a day, and I don't feel bad about it, or like if I got to call off and that's what your leave time is for. And so I think for me, that was just something I had to learn and just, utilize that when I'm feeling a certain way and I just need feeling some things creeping up or whatever, and I need to take a day off work, I take it. I take it.
Mhm. Yes, too. And another thing I do for self care surrounding grief is that I know certain times are going to be difficult for me. For instance, around her birthday, around Mother's Day, around the time we found out she was going on hospice, certain days kind of stick with you. So
yeah,
when I know that those dates are coming up, I like Constance said, I plan. I'm going to either, I may take a day off work or I may decide that I'm going to do a bubble bath and relax, or I'm going to eat ice cream and, in her honor and moderation. I'm going to do something
mhm,
to kind of celebrate and remember it. But I think planning in advance is also helpful for self-care when going through, loss.
mhm. You're right. I know with me, it's like a couple weeks before the date, like the day anniversary of my husband passing. It's usually like 2 weeks before where I start getting just kind of irritable and agitated easily and just feeling out of sorts and just really weepy. And then when that particular day arrives, then it's like, okay, I feel a little bit of sense of relief. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, but then of course you're honoring them on that particular day, so you're finding ways to honor them. And for me it's generally doing something that I know that he would enjoy um, doing, which is usually something outside. Go to the lake. We used to go kayaking. I haven't kayaked actually in a while, but those are some of the things that I like to do. That and all of us, we all make sure. Like my son, he took up what do you call it, surfing, and it was just like he said he could feel his dad out and being on the water. He felt his presence, and that
Mhm.
helped with his healing process.
Oh, that's good.
So we all have different ways, but it was usually anything that's going to be done outside. That's my daughter took up gardening because my husband was big on that. So So those are
I
cute.
love that.
How about you, Jen?
Yeah, well, after my parents passed, like I said, my siblings get together, but the ones that live local,
Mm,
we might go to church and then go out to lunch, but we always do something on my mom and dad's birthdays as well as something around the day that they passed. So the dates coming up, we plan, we decide where we're gonna go, what we're gonna do, but we usually hang out together and we kind of think about them, reminisce, some of the good memories, share photographs of, some things that have happened. And then, like I said, once a year in December, we go to Williamsburg, just the siblings, just so that we can hang out with each other because, time is short and, we never know from one day to the next. And we just want to be together. So that's kind of like what we do to, think about my parents, now that they're gone.
mhm.
And Cassandra, that one thing you said kind of brought to mind about going back to how our bodies. I tell you, it just sneaks. Your body will let you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes with grief, your body will definitely let you know. Because I can, remember early on, when those specific dates would come up, I would start feeling a certain way. I would, sometimes months before, a month before, or weeks before, I would
Mhm.
just start feeling this thing coming over me. And so your body, I think it definitely, our bodies definitely let us know too.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Irosha? Some things?
Um, I form little traditions. Same like Cassandra said, her son went surfing. So my mom worked in a hotel. You know, we all got busy lives, right? And so for me, twice a month, I work at a Holiday Inn. And it's
Wow.
early in the morning. It's super early in the morning. It doesn't take away from my life or anything. I get up and serve people at the hotel.
Yes.
And it just gives me a connection with my mom. And then by 10 o'clock, that I usually do it on a weekend. And by 10 o'clock, I'm back in my car and I have my mom. I was like, okay, I just did my work with you, mom. And I keep it moving. And it's my way of dealing with it and coping with it. Some people may think like, oh, you have time to do that, but it makes me feel connected to my mom, and it's something that she always enjoyed doing.
Mhm.
I also like to journal. I write. I go back to date. I date, especially when I'm angry. I'm angry a lot, um, and that's one of the things that I'm working with. And so when I go back to the journal, I go back and I look at things and I'm always connected. So I always hear my mom's voice, and it can hear her say, "You need to get over it." That's just how my mom was. That's how she talked to us, and
Yeah.
those just things that I do to stay connected with my mom.
That sounds good.
Beautiful.
I love that. That's beautiful,
It
Irosha.
is.
Yes. And you're giving back at the same time. So that's so good.
Yeah.
Well, fear can definitely be a double-edged sword. It can either hold us back, making us hesitant to try new things, or it can be a powerful signal that we're on the edge of growth. I choose to lean into fear as a teacher, seeing it as a sign of something important waiting to be learned or achieved.
Hmm.
So I will end with this quote: Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. Invite one to stay. And that's from Maya Angelou.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
Invite one to stay.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Well,
sounds very good.
all right. Well, that will end our discussion today. We thank you for tuning in. Please like and share. Feel free to comment or ask a question. And we can be reached at navigatinggrief.sisterhood@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time. And remember, grief is heavy, but hope
Won't prevail.
Hope
prevails.
prevails.
Hope
Yes.
prevails.
Yes.
See you next time.
See you next
Bye-bye.
time.
Mm.